The point is, when the rope's here, when we set the goal here, we try and jump, we do a little pole vault, we snake underneath it. When we set the goal up here, we pull out the big guns. And what most people don't do in life is they don't ever get the big guns out. They just play small all the time. The goal's here. And they dare and put the goal here through their fear of being disappointed. Disappointment will not kill you. Let me tell you this. You set the goal here, you never get disappointed. You just learn stuff. That's all that happens. People are so worried about being disappointed. When you set the goal up here, you never get disappointed. Because you go, well, you know what, that was a huge goal. I didn't quite get there this time, but I learned some stuff. That means that next time, am I closer to reaching the goal? And the answer is absolutely, absolutely. I meet so many people, I say, how much do you want to make from your trading? They go, I have no idea. And I go, you know why that is? And they go, why? And I go, because you don't think it's going to happen. You're too afraid of being disappointed. Now, if I haven't managed to build rapport with that person and before I make that comment, they're going to be like, that's not true. But we both know it really is, right? And the real game here is, if we're going to set the goal and we'll go for it, let's go for the goal, right? So in this exercise, for those of you watching via video, don't make the goal small, make the goal how big?
Huge.
Huge. Huge. And as Tony suggests, learn to fly. So that's the first thing we're going to do. Let's have a look at why we learn to invest. Well, as a non-investor, we give our time for money. This is the wheel. You know, you hear people talk about getting in the rat wheel. We spend our time making money. Our lifestyle is then, we spend our money on our lifestyle. These are called our bills, our mortgage and everything else. What does mortgage mean? Mortgage, it's a French word, isn't it? Mortgage, that's where it comes from, French. Well, mort in French means to die, and gauge means to... A gauge, what does a gauge do? It measures. Yeah, it's called the death measure, the death gauge. The mortgage, the term mortgage basically means after you've finished paying your mortgage, you're supposed to pop your clogs and die. That's it. It's basically your life expectancy. So the idea is you work yourself on the treadmill until the mortgage is paid off, then you keel over and you're dead. That's really where the term comes from. Unfortunately, most people have managed to pay their mortgage off before they die, but often people don't do it till much later in life, and therefore the time they could be spending on generating other things and creating a different quality of life is often compromised. So the non-investor, they give the time for money, they spend it on their lifestyle, and then just go straight back onto the treadmill the next day and kind of run up the hill again. The investor is not somebody who makes money. That's not what it is. An investor or a trader or somebody that generates money secondarily is somebody who values life and values their time much more importantly than they do money. They don't care about money. At that point, it's they value their life more importantly. So they use some of their money they've already generated, and they've obviously got to put capital in at the beginning to create more capital. And when you understand that concept, when your mind shifts from I've got to sweat blood and tears to make money to I can make money make money. And when you get into the world of I can make money, you suddenly have a whole different perception of money. And it's the perception that people have of money that generally prevents them from making it in the first place. There's so much angst, there's so much emotion tied up and energy tied up with money. Most people fail to get it because they're constantly trying to hold on to it as opposed to just attract it. And it's a mindset shift to get people into the world of letting money flow to them as opposed to always being in the state of scarcity and trying to go and pull the money back. Hey, if you just set this game up and you just concentrate on some simple strategies put in place, even if you can never make it as a trader, if you don't have the time for, let's say you create a rule set which is I have no time to trade, fine. You have no time to trade, you've created that rule set, you've created that belief, you have no time to invest, an hour a year sat in a super investor account that generates between 20 and 25% is going to have any individual at any monetary level financially independent long before they hit their 50s. Okay? And that's at any price level, any monetary amount invested. The investor values their time. They use some money to make money. They use the money to give themselves more time, and then they do what they want. That really is the defining difference. This is really not about creating money at all. You can always make the money. You can never get the time back. You know, and when you're 70 or 80 years old, I'm afraid that's it. And we all live longer. The drugs are keeping us going. Kids only once. When your parents are gone, they're gone forever. We can't rely on pensions or welfare, and if you don't change what you've been doing, you're likely to get the same results. So starting with a strong focus on what we want is step number one. Now, what's step number two in making it in the trading game? In terms of what we do as individuals and how we perceive ourselves psychologically is absolutely crucial particularly in the trading and investing game. Here's an example, and Vicky, you brought it up earlier on when we were before we were starting when we were getting ready to cut this module, and we talked about trying. When people try to do things, and for example, if you meet people who are trying to quit smoking and they're saying, I'm trying to quit smoking, the quickest and easiest way to quit smoking is simply to change. There's many controls we have. We have values, we have beliefs, we have rules, we have environment. But if you want to change something to your core, the quickest way to do it, if you want to shift from doing something to doing something different, in this case, if it was quitting smoking or if it was becoming a trader or an investor, we just need to shift who we perceive ourselves to be. In other words, we need to shift our identity. You meet somebody who says, I'm trying to quit smoking, I'm trying to quit smoking, I'm trying to quit smoking. You ask them, well, are you a smoker? They say, yeah. And that's it. That's the turning point right there. They're a smoker who's trying to quit. They'll never quit. They'll never quit. Very, very difficult. It'll be painful, it'll be long, it'll be drawn out, because they're an identity of somebody who smokes, who's now trying, i.e. focusing on the act of smoking and still doing it. Does that make sense? Whereas if they want to shift quite quickly from being a smoker, somebody who does not smoke, they've literally got to shift their identity, which is, I'm a non-smoker, I don't smoke. That's it. And then they'll find, if they continue with that belief system about their identity, their behavior will shift. Because all human beings, one of the things we know is that all human beings will ensure their behavior is consistent with the perception of their own identity. You want to shift anything. Don't try and do it with environment. Don't try and do it with belief, rules, or values, or any of that stuff. Do it at the core. Now, you take a look at the following diagram. Can you spot the difference? You've got a person here saying, well, I'm learning and trying to trade. When the other person says, I'm a successful trader. And that is the defining difference. The person who believes that's who they are straight off the bat, and the person who thinks, well, I'm just learning and I'm trying. People will learn and try for 10 years and never master this game. Whereas you'll see some young little city boys who will go and work for one of the major US trading banks. In their first week, they'll have the haircut, they'll have a pinstripe suit on, and their belief system is that they are a trader, and boy, oh boy, they are. And the mindset they've adopted in just 3 weeks, because they're surrounded by institutional traders, they're there in the space, they're around the investing world, they already believe they are within the first 3 weeks. Whereas you can have somebody on their own who doesn't surround themselves in that environment, doesn't spend any time with anybody who has that same belief system. Well, it might take them 10 years to actually say to somebody at a cocktail party, what do? I'm a trader. Up to that point, it might well be, well, I'm dabbling around with stocks and having a look. And you dabble around and have a look. You're going to dabble and have action at this level. You step up and say, it's kind of interesting. I used to be a teacher, or I used to be this, but now I'm a trader. That's what I do. And whenever I go to a cocktail party, people say to me, what do you do? I say, I trade full time, and I teach people how to do it. And they go, wow, that's kind of interesting. That's a kind of interesting conversation, because people love to hear all about it. But it's got to be primary first. If you want it to happen, you want your behavior to follow it, you've got to shift your identity first. Now let's have a look now. Let's dive into the psychology of trading. Let's say we've managed to harness, now for those of you watching remotely, we've managed to harness the correct belief systems. We've got to surround ourselves. Let me make sure that I make that point clear before we now move on into the actual psychology of placing trades. We've got to spend time with people that do it consistently and have an expectation of a certain result. In other words, if you want to learn to trade, great. Do spend time with beginners, but make sure you're spending time with people who are doing it successfully and have an expectation of producing a successful result. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself in a group of people who are called the naysayers. The people that go, I didn't do very well this month. How did you get on? No, I didn't do very well either. And then you're going to find yourself creating a belief set, which is it's not impossible. People in this room, you go hang out with Paul, and he'll tell you how he makes 16% every single month. And for anybody watching remotely, for those of you that have registered for coaching with one of our coaches, spend time with the coach and ask them how their trading is going, and get yourself immersed with the community that we create in Knowledge to Action, which is pulling speakers and traders in who trade full time and produce results from doing that. Spend time with people that have made a commitment to both either quit their jobs and trade full time, or become very successful part-time traders who make a decent income stream from doing so. It's the quickest and fastest way to do it. Spend time with people that want you to succeed, as opposed to people who don't. And the people who don't at the moment are probably the people who, by contrast, don't want to look ineffective.